When you're developing NFT art, you're always looking for that thing that's gonna excite your buyers. The right look and feel, it all matters. And having traits integrated into your art can help people to hone down on what they like and make decisions faster. So today, we're gonna run through NFT traits. We're gonna talk about what they are, we're gonna get a baseline for that. We're gonna walk through some examples that did it really well, talk about how to implement traits from a marketing perspective, and finally, we're gonna talk about how to market your traits. My name is Trent Kennelly, I'm a Web3 marketing strategist, and this is the best place to talk about Web3, the metaverse, NFTs, and how to market it all. So if that sounds good to you and you're excited, make sure that you like this video, subscribe to my channel if you're into it, comment to let me know about what your traits are for your current NFT project or what you're thinking about for the project that you're working on right now. I would love to know, and let's get started. All right, so let's start with some basics. What are they and why do you want them? So NFT traits are the elements of the NFT. Most often those traits are parts of the piece itself. So for instance, NFTs like these are gonna have many different attributes. So the hair, the mouth, the eyes, the background color, what they're holding, all of these things are traits, and you can see that they're all different. So the question that arises then is, why do we even want this? Well, the answer is rarity, but to really understand that requires a bit more explanation. So it's probably pretty well established at this point, but the majority of NFT projects aren't 10,000 hand-drawn pieces. Someone didn't stand in front of an artboard and draw something 10,000 times, okay? Instead, the artist is gonna create 10 mouths and 5 head shapes and 6 backgrounds, etc. And then they're gonna create those pieces separately, right? So you'll have those 6 mouths, they'll be in the right position generally, but it's not like they're gonna be 6 mouths on 6 Bored Apes, okay? They are just 6 individual mouths, okay? Then they're gonna use a program to take all of those different pieces and compile them into 10,000 individual and unique images. Okay, so that all makes sense, right? But how does that address rarity? Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, because when you're using a program to put the images together, you can assign rarities to certain traits. So for instance, let's say you have a character flipping a coin. You might decide that you want the coin to be a really rare trait. So then you code that in as a really rare trait, okay? Makes sense. But look, I know why you're on this channel. It's not for programming, it's for NFT marketing and sales. And I don't know much more about programming than that. So we're gonna stop right there. That's all of the programming talk we're gonna do. But if you want more information on how to actually program in the traits, you should watch this dude's video. He does an awesome job explaining it. So now that we've got that, let's run through a few different NFTs that did traits really, really well. The first one I wanna talk about is the Bored Ape Yacht Club. So this is one of those NFT collections that really helped NFTs explode onto the market. And they have really strong numbers of traits. So they have 7 different traits: background, clothing, earring, eyes, fur, hat, mouth. But inside each of those different trait categories is up to 43 different possibilities. So what this does is not only give options for different looks and feels, but it also allows for extremely rare traits. Now we're gonna get into how that works in just a minute, but for now, just keep in mind that the more possibilities for a trait, the rarer you can make some of those options. And then the other example I want to give you is Azuki. So you can check out a very deep analysis of Azuki and why they were successful in this video. But when we look at the traits that they present and how they presented them, it's actually pretty exciting. So they developed a website that lets you search for specific pieces in the collection with one or more of the traits that you want. So if you want a spirit with a katana, you can select those 2 options to see the pieces that they offer that has both of those traits. So they actually took the traits beyond just another thing to note about the NFT, and they made them a deeper part of the collection. Okay, so with that basic understanding of kind of what it is and why you want it, let's talk about how to implement these NFT traits, okay? And we should start by talking about the goal of your traits. Now, obviously you want to add traits because they're a cool thing to put in your project, but the real reason has to be that your traits are gonna draw people to one particular NFT over others in your collection, thereby getting them to make a purchase. So if you kind of look at selling your NFT collection, even on a place like OpenSea that's an open market, as a funnel, then what you're gonna notice is that your traits are one of the last things that you're gonna be using to push people toward a sale. So you've got things that are kind of top of funnel, like community building and utilities and the general art style of the project as a whole. Those are gonna build that initial interest. They're gonna get people to come to the collection page or to your website. But consider that those are things that are only gonna drive the interest for the collection generally. Then people are gonna start clicking around on each individual NFT, and the job of the traits is to entice a user to buy a specific NFT from a collection. So you're getting them into that final stage where they're in that consideration and then they're going, I like that trait, I wanna buy. In a weird way, you can almost think of traits as kind of like a checkout function. So you're not on a checkout page, right? But if you think of Web 2 e-commerce, people are gonna see a product, they're gonna be interested in the product, they're gonna click, they're gonna go to a checkout page, right? And most people, when they get to that checkout page, they abandon, right? That happens all the time. They hesitate on that purchase button, and a lot of the time they don't want to take the next step. On a checkout page, you can provide like a little badge that highlights your 30-day money-back guarantee. You can put testimonials there, things that'll ease their mind from any of those last-minute worries before they press the purchase button. So the checkout mentality isn't quite the same because they're in that consideration phase. They haven't actually pressed a button, but someone who's considering you're buying your NFT is gonna find themselves looking at the OpenSea section about the traits, and they're gonna see that that grid highlights the rarity of certain traits over others. And so you're kind of using traits in the same way as that 30-day money-back guarantee, because you're saying, hey, these are the traits, these are the things that are definitely gonna make this thing increase in value, or these are the things that are gonna make it really easy to flip or something like that. So understanding that goal, the next question is how many traits to implement. And as with anything, we're looking at supply versus demand here. What's the balance of traits that is gonna entice people without overwhelming them? The good news here is that more is generally better within reason, okay? People are going to want to choose between different possibilities, and they're more likely to latch onto one trait that potentially means more to them than some others. So if you give them more trait categories to be interested in, you're more likely to pull more people in to be interested, right? But let me harp on that within reason part again, because 500 traits is going to have the opposite effect, and it's going to result in what's called a paradox of choice. So a paradox of choice is what happens when there are too many options on the table to choose from, and instead of making a choice, people just opt to not choose at all, okay? Great example here is the Cheesecake Factory. So if you've ever gone to this place, you're gonna sit down and you're gonna get like a novel. You're gonna get War and Peace, but it's not War and Peace, it's your menu, okay? And you have so many options to choose from. There's just a massive amount of things, and people leave this restaurant because it's too hard to pick. That is paradox of choice. Instead of making a choice, people choose to leave, okay? So keep that in mind when you're developing your traits. Now let's dig down to the individual trait level. So what should your rarity distribution be? Let's say that you have an NFT that has a trait for different shirt colors. You've got red, green, blue, brown, and yellow, okay? How should you decide that level of rarity? So if we want red to be the rarest, how rare, okay? Algorithmically, you can set the rarity to a percentage of the total number of NFTs created. So you can say, I want red to be 0.25% of the number of NFTs that are created. I want green to be 5% of the NFTs that are created, etc. Now, it can be kind of hard to decide what that should look like because you want some to be common and you want some to be rare. So what I would suggest here is instead of trying to assign those on your own, use a bell curve. A bell curve is a graph that shows the highest and lowest probabilities of something occurring. So if you've ever taken a class where they grade on a curve, that means that they're using a bell curve to distribute grades. So in that case, a few people are going to get A's, most people are going to get C's, and only a few people are going to get F's because that forms a bell, right? At least that's how it works in the US. You kind of get the idea. I don't know what grading systems look like in other countries. Sorry, okay? So take that same idea and attach it to your traits. Pick what you want to be common and uncommon. Just plop them in different points of the bell curve, and then you're gonna be able to assign those values to the program. Super easy. As long as it comes out to 100%, you're good to go. So with that all in mind, let's talk about how to get the word out on these traits, because yes, they are a final decision element when you're looking at individual NFTs, but if you take them as a whole, you can use the fact that your traits are varied and super cool to draw more people to the project in the first place. Meaning that while traits aren't the first thing that you talk about when you're showing off your collection, they are something that you should feature prominently on the site or your collections page or whatever. So here's what I'm going to suggest doing with the traits that you have. First, make them searchable the way Azuki did it. Now, I know you're going to say to me, we don't have multi-million-dollar backing to build a site like that like Azuki did. And you know what? Neither do I. But you don't really need it. The basic e-commerce catalog stuff is already out there for you to use here. You can set up a website catalog to sort through your NFTs based on those traits that they have, and boom, you have the same setup. It's really not hard. If you're using Squarespace or something like that, you've already got it just built in. Same thing for WordPress with like Elementor or something like that. You can also mention them on social media or any other channel that you really have available, email, whatever it is. But Before you try to build a community this way, I really strongly suggest you watch this video because it's really gonna help you to avoid some of those common mistakes where people are just posting about the project all the time and they're not actually working on building that community. And then once you are building that community, once you are mentioning the project from time to time, you can fold those traits into the project as well. So it's kind of a fine balance. I really suggest watching that video first. So there you go. I hope that I helped you to kind of figure out how to implement traits. This is really valuable to have with your art, and it's super simple because you're already algorithmically building out your NFTs anyway to add the rarity to the traits and to just kind of make those part of your project, okay? So let me know in the comments what kind of traits are going to be in your project and what you're thinking about there, or what kind of questions you have around traits. I would love to be able to help you. Otherwise, make sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel if you're into it, and I will catch you in the next one.